Well, well, well. It looks like Gene Taylor found Colin Klein's number after all, and pretty quickly. Let's talk about it coming up next. Welcome into Three Ma After Dark. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck. Took a while, but we told you an announcement was coming today. At least those in the Discord certainly knew that. All right. Don't ever doubt us. We told you not to worry about that press conference yesterday and everything Gene Taylor had to say. Colin Klein has been officially announced as the next head football coach at K-State, which calls for a toast, a Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon, which Cole has ready to go. It actually makes sense now since we're doing this at 8 p.m. instead of 8 a.m. So that is very convenient here. But raise your Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon glasses or your 360 vodka, whatever your drink of choice is right now. We are quite certain that our friends at Holiday Distillery are very excited right now as well. So it's here. Cole and I both threw on our, I'm going to say Colin Klein jersey. I will admit I'm cheating a little bit because, look, Michael Bishop is my favorite athlete of all time. Obviously, they both wore number 7. I bought this jersey in college, so Colin Klein may have been on the team at that point, but it was before his ascension, right? So 2011 was my first year out of college. I would have bought this in 2009 or 2010. He may have been on the team, but this was a Michael Bishop jersey is what I'm telling you, but it's going to work for Colin Klein today because it's number 7. Also, at some point, I decided to write GOAT on it, so don't mind the tape there. But Cole, did you purchase that actually in the Colin Klein era, or was that like a Skylar Thompson number 7?
No, this was during the Colin Klein era, John. They started selling this. I bought it the night of the Kansas State-Oklahoma State game in 2012 with my buddy Chris. We went over to the team store. They had these for sale, and we bought them. K-State blew the doors off a top 25 Oklahoma State team, I think, to get to 8-0 in the year, 9-0. That was a 7 p.m. ABC game. So, yeah, bought this. I've had this thing hanging in the closet for quite some time. I don't wear it as much anymore, but obviously – there's a long lineage of number 7s that have been pretty good at Kansas State. Not only when you look at Michael Bishop, but you could look at a Josh Buell. You can look at Colin Klein, obviously, and Skylar Thompson, et cetera. So I'm sure I'm missing another really good number 7 that's been out there. So, and I also have a Michael Bishop jersey, John, just like that, by the way, from the 90s.
BJ Payne. Yeah, I know that's what you were thinking of.
I was trying to think. Cole, was Ty Schweiger number 7?
You know, that sounds right. That sounds right, I believe. As I think back to like the Holiday Bowl highlights from the 1995 Colorado State game, I feel like Tyson Schweigert was wearing number 7 in that game, but
yeah,
I can't remember exactly. And again, I'm sure there's another number 7 we're leaving off. But hey, man, tremendous news.
Skylar Thompson.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, we got a little Skylar mention there. Skylar had a nice social post for Chris Kleiman retiring. Yeah, man. What?
I was going to say Skylar changed to number 7 because of Colin, right? So
kind of the legacy. I think he was leaning into the legacy of Michael Bishop and Colin Klein. Yeah, I think he was leaning into that legacy. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, subscribe. We talk about the Cats all the time here on this channel. Great time to get in right now, quite obviously, as we all sit here and enjoy this news. We broke it down a little bit the other day. We cheated a bit during the Chris Kleiman show because we all knew that this was coming. It's not surprising at all that this moved very fast. We told you guys it was all a rope-a-dope at the press conference. They can't really say anything at that point. And here it is. You've got the I's dotted, the T's crossed, some details. There's going to be a public press conference at 4 o'clock tomorrow at the volleyball facility. I believe I saw doors open at 3 and the press conference is at 4. Yeah, okay. Yep. There's that bit that we got from the press release. We also know, courtesy of the press release, that Colin Klein is going to make an average base salary of $4.3 million per year. So we can put some of that into context a little bit later on. I don't know that that's really all that significant because, like, if he wins, he's going to get a ton of money. If he doesn't, then it won't be anything really less than that. And that's going to be toward the bottom of the Big 12 at $4.3 million right now. If you want some quotes here, Gene Taylor says, "We're excited to welcome one of our all-time greats back home to Manhattan. Colin's a tremendous leader who cares deeply about his players. The grit, toughness, and aggression he displayed as a player still fuels him today as a coach." Colin said, "My family and I could not be more grateful for the opportunity to come home. Thank you to President Litton and Gene Taylor for believing in us to lead the Cats into a new era. The position of head coach at K-State has a long legacy of service, hard work, determination, and competitive greatness that I'm honored to carry forward. This is family business, and we cannot wait to get to work."
This is family business line. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a reference to the track off of College Dropout, Kanye West's revolutionary early 2000s hip hop album.
Yeah. And for folks that are wondering as well, good opportunity Saturday to get to the men's basketball game versus Seton Hall as we fully anticipate that Colin Klein will be introduced in front of the fans. It would be great to have a sellout crowd in front of basketball. DY knocked the eye roll off there, man. It's a Seton Hall. It is basically the 2-year anniversary of the night Colin Klein left Kansas State against a Big East opponent in basketball in Villanova.
Do you know how hard it was to enjoy that game?
DY, we were all miserable. There was a lot of stuff going on, obviously, as we know. It wasn't just Colin Klein. And I just remember we pulled into the parking lot of that Villanova game, and John had gotten the text that Colin was interviewing with A&M, and it was serious. And we spent pretty much the entirety of the basketball game looking at our phones, John especially getting updates. GY texting across in the arena. We're texting, from his press area. And the drive home was just John reading me text updates as I drove. Well, 2 years to the day, essentially, Kansas State will play another Big East opponent in basketball against Seton Hall, where they will march Colin Klein back in, but this time as the head coach of Kansas State University. So let's hope for not another overtime game, just maybe blow the doors off Seton Hall. But that'll be a fun moment, and I hope that it's packed, not only for the basketball team, but also just for the moment with Colin Klein.
Yeah, that Villanova game would have been, to be honest, we'd remember it as awesome if it wasn't for the Colin Klein anxiety that came along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jerome Tang should be pretty happy about all this and the timing of it. This I would think will make for a better crowd.
I'd be surprised if it wasn't a sellout at this point.
Yeah, I think Saturday absolutely helps.
Afternoon.
Yep. Yeah. It's all right. Well, do we want to do like initial reactions to getting everything locked up here? Like, are you feeling any different now that it's here, Cole? Are you feeling any different about this than you were when we all, like, it's just been a whirlwind, man. Like, it was Tuesday that I was leaving the office to run by Quick Trip on like a late lunch break when I got the first text that was just a little emoji set of eyeballs, and that was it. Nothing else. And our world has changed in the last, like, probably been about 52 hours since then. Does it feel any different now that it's here and official?
Can I before you say something, Cole, can I just say it's kind of a weird one because one, you didn't get a search out of it at all. Everyone knew it. And also, like, everyone knew it like 72 hours before it was announced. So it was kind of an unorthodox process, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think really as soon as we knew what was transpiring over the last 48 hours and Chris Kleiman was retiring, we obviously knew at the same time that Colin Klein was going to be the next head coach. And so it's already set in. I mean, the sleepless nights of excitement, the last 2 nights, I've already got it ingrained in my head. And
you didn't sleep the last 2 nights?
I've slept very poorly, to be honest. So, excitement, there's a variety of things. My son's birthday is today, Brody. So we were up late getting things ready for his birthday today as well, which happy birthday to Brody.
Happy birthday, Brody. Yep.
Brody's had a pretty nice birthday the last few years. Chris Kleiman delivered a birthday present to him right here. Shout out to Chris Kleiman for giving us one hell of a moment. That's us at the stadium in Dallas with the confetti in this picture frame. Chris Kleiman and the boys got that done, Big 12 championship. That was for his birthday that he asked for when he turned 6. And now as he turns 9, he gets Colin Klein as the head coach. So, it's really exciting. I mean, I think we've all spent the last 48 hours speculating on his staff, pulling together names and trying to figure out, and we'll talk about that on this show. And I know there's questions. I mean, Dan, you got a question right there. What's the number one priority for CK's staff pick? DY, we'll let you weigh in on that. But, it's the unifying hire that brings everybody together. Not that people weren't fully in with Chris Kleiman, who was an outstanding person and a really good football coach for this program, but there was some strife going on with the way things were going. And so this just brings everybody together, and there's going to be a buzz and an energy about K-State football that there hasn't been in a little while coming into this next season. Hopefully it all works out. Eager to see the staff that Colin brings in, eager to monitor the transfer portal and the roster that Colin Klein and his staff works through. But DY, I don't know if you want to answer Dan's question. Like, how would you?
Let's do this. Let's hold off on that a little bit, because the top storyline is what you just touched on there, Cole, which is brought to you by our friends at Alenco, ALENCO home.com, to get hooked up with all your home improvement needs. We appreciate their support. The top storyline is that this is something that can unify everybody. It's been a rough year. There was a lot of infighting within the fan base, people that were frustrated about the direction of the program under Chris Kleiman, people that had legitimate concerns, and people that went over the top with wanting to fire everybody. And then that, of course, there's like a recoil effect to that where people on the other side get upset. Colin Klein is like the one guy who can make everybody happy. I said it the other night, but the proud of this house we built fans will love Colin Klein, and the hyper online, I want to be elite, win at all costs fans will love Colin Klein, because he's an SEC offensive coordinator that just about got the Oklahoma State head coaching job a couple of weeks ago. So it's going to get everybody on board from a healing the wounds of the fan base standpoint, but more importantly, galvanize donors at a time when you need money more than ever. It'll galvanize people to get behind Colin Klein. I think you'll get K-State's best shot from a financial fundraising standpoint because of this. And that is just much, much, much needed, desperately needed right now. He should get about as much support as K-State can possibly financially provide, I would have to imagine.
I'll give this just a very short speech here and then give it away Cole, because he's probably more, to be honest, qualified and fit to answer a question of this magnitude. But what I will say is I've been here now for almost, I think actually I had been here for 10 years. I was here for the entire Chris Kleiman tenure, which was 7. And I was here for 2 Bill Snyder. That was 9 years. So the next season will be my 10th. So I don't think I'm that aloof to be able to answer things. But what I will say is I think I'm qualified enough to say that there is no person in the Kansas State universe that can command as much financial resources as Colin Klein. And that's a big deal for Kansas State moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument, and obviously with the NIL era, this is probably just an easily true statement that no football team will have had more resources put behind them than this upcoming Kansas State football team in 2026 and beyond, because the money that's going to be thrown at this program by people, and you could probably also increase the prices of ticket sales, frankly, if you wanted to. I know that's a sensitive subject, and at a time when people are struggling to sell tickets, not at Kansas State, you're still selling out games even in a 6-6 season, and so the money is going to be coming in, and Colin Klein is the hire that I think 99.9% of this fan base is 100% behind. It's the home run, easy hire. When he was named the offensive coordinator in 2022, everybody stood behind it and was fully supportive. And look what happened. Kansas State won a Big 12 championship, and they had a top 20 offense in the country. And then in 2023, they had the number 10 offense in America in the FEI. Texas A&M now has the number 12 offense in the country under Colin Klein in the FEI. They're 25th in points per drive. Kansas State was incredibly efficient with Colin Klein from a points per drive standpoint when he was here, 3.03 points per drive in 2023, number 11 in America. And look, I know people will say, well, there was still K-State fans criticizing Colin Klein's play calling at times. And I would probably be right there with you. And that's just the nature of an offensive coordinator and a sports fan, and criticizing the offensive play caller and always thinking you know best. And I'm not innocent from that either. But Colin Klein is one hell of an offensive mind. He's a brilliant person. I don't think he's just an offensive guy. I think he has the structure and the discipline and the foundation that he will put together and form a staff with this vision, this grand vision that he has for this program. And he knows Kansas State better than anybody, obviously. And we talked about it on the show last night, guys. Colin Klein has now learned from Bill Snyder, not only as a player, but also coaching along Bill Snyder. He's learned from Mike Elko, who's a pretty damn good coach at Texas A&M and a program builder. Look what he did at Duke, and then look what he's doing at Texas A&M. And he learned from Chris Kleiman. And so he's been tapped into and learned from some of the very best that you could hope for. And I'm damn excited for what this era is going to be, and cannot wait to just monitor things over the next couple of months in itself as he builds out a roster and a staff. We already hear a bunch of names coming in on possibilities, and it's exciting.
It definitely is. I want to cover a bunch of that. You guys have had some good questions so far. I'm appreciating the questions that are coming in. I'm trying to jot some of these down. So, take your best shot. Maybe we'll get to it later on in the show. I do think we need to take a break, I assume, Nick. So let's go ahead and take a break. Come back. Maybe we can talk a little Colin Klein staff. I'm seeing some questions already about that. Oh, someone's telling me to go check out Gene Taylor tweets. A Gene Taylor tweet. All right.
Found his number. That's what he said.
Okay. Oh, okay. We'll check it out during the break next.
What's up, guys? It is Benny Heiss, KCSN betting analyst, and Missouri. Your moment is finally here. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is now live right here in the state. So now you can make every game so much more exciting with same-game parlays, money lines, props, and more, all from your phone, and it's all safe, secure, and easy to use. And listen, we know fans in the state of Missouri know game day, whether it's the tailgates, the noise, the passion. And now with DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bring that same energy to every snap, every touchdown, and every win. Right now, new Missouri customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. There's no waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. So here's what you do. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code KCSN. Code KCSN. Remember, new Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code KCSN. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Remember, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after they're issued. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, please see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
All right. We are back. 3 Mile After Dark, talking Colin Klein here. Please like and subscribe if you are here. If you have not been here before, it's all cats all the time around here. Okay, DY, let's get back to that question that we got earlier. Who's priority number one for the staff here?
I don't even know who it is, but what I would tell you, based on what I know has been addressed already, it had to be the general manager, because I think it's already filled.
Which honestly makes sense in terms of like what you need to like hit the ground running quickly.
Sorry for not saying much about it, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we know, right? Behind the scenes.
No, we know he's got his guy though.
Seems like he's got his guy. We do not know who it is actually going to be. But you need that. You need that to get rolling right now. I mean, you're going to have to figure out how to put this roster together. Obviously, there are tons of conversations, I'm sure, that are happening right now between players that are still on the current roster. There have been a handful that have gone into the portal, I would say, headlined by Quay Moss, which sucks. But, Amarian Fortenberry was also in the portal, or is announcing that he's going to be in the portal when it opens. So you got to have a lot of conversations here, but you got to start lining up like what's the roster going to look like? What do we anticipate things are going to cost for X player? And that process has to start now, and you got to get rolling quickly.
Cool. Would that have been your answer as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think general manager is priority one. It's not our guy Curry Sexton. It's not.
Okay, I was thinking about. I was like, do we go into that, because everyone speculated about that, right?
He would have been great. Yeah,
and he would crush it. He would crush it. I'm sure there are other guys that could crush it too, but Curry Sexton would kill that job. But we have a pretty good source on that says he's not taken.
That says he's pretty comfortable in what he's doing right now.
We'll keep that source anonymous, but I feel it's right around that A range of sourcing. I think general manager priority one, especially in this era, guys, and Colin Klein clearly has that guy in place. And I think the thing that everybody realizes here, like, this thing is moving fast and putting the staff together. Obviously, you haven't heard any official names or hires. I mean, Colin Klein just got hired officially tonight, but it is moving fast because you have to remember that Colin Klein had a vision and a plan, that there was an expectation he was going to get hired by somebody this offseason. He damn near had the South Florida job. He almost had the Oklahoma State job.
2 different places. I think he was down to the final 2 at Oklahoma State. Obviously didn't get it because they picked Eric Morris because they valued head coaching experience. Fortunately, like a lot of schools did for some reason this cycle, they valued the head coaching experience. And then, guys, the more I dig into it, I'm not going to lie, I think they were basically like 20 minutes away from being too late to the Colin Klein gig because I think he was that close to the USF job.
Yeah, which I would say, DY, it wouldn't have been a surprise, though, that even if he got hired by USF and this happened, that Kansas State just calls him and whatever that buyout is, they're able to get him out of it. I know USF's putting a lot of resources around that program, so I'm not sure what the buyout number would have been, but I have to anticipate they wouldn't have had the power to put too high of a buyout where K-State couldn't have gotten out of that.
But if you're Colin Klein, it's really hard to say I'm leaving after you've already taken the job. So it becomes a lot more difficult in that instance. My guess is they try to convince Kleiman to hang on for one more year if that were to happen.
Yeah. And it has been done. Like Dana Altman turned around and he left Arkansas, right? In basketball, Jack Hartman, the stories that I've been told about Jack Hartman going to Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And obviously went back to kids. So it has happened. I don't know if contract pen on paper in those situations, I can't recall, but there's situations like that. Nevertheless, DY, to your point, he was damn near signing that contract with USF.
The way it's been explained to me, like there was like a plane on the tarmac awaiting him. Like it was that close. Yeah.
And so GM priority one, and the point I was making really, guys, was just that he had a staff, like a general idea of a coaching staff already that he was going to take with him. Now, it probably varied when you think about the staff he would have taken to Oklahoma State because he would have had more resources than probably at USF. So there would have been some guys he could have pulled to OSU that he might not have been able to pull with him to USF and to Tampa Bay. But a lot of the guys he probably already had lined up ready to go. And he just called him and was like, well, hey, we were talking about OSU. We were talking about USF. Get on a plane. You're coming to Manhattan, Kansas with me instead. And that's where we're going. And we're going to build this thing into a power. And we're going to make college football run through Manhattan, Kansas. So,
now we can do it again, Cole. You're right.
I'm sure that was the pitch. Yeah. Well, DY, you've been pounding the pavement, man, on staff. Like what do you want to say here about names that people should be looking out for on the staff coming up?
We'll do the obvious ones because there's some that are going to be a tussle.
Hold up. I'm sorry. Can I give the one that I have to give?
You had to live through Nate Kaxer, so I got you.
I would anticipate that Stanton Weber would be coming back to run special teams, which means that I will not have to stand in and yell into this microphone every single Saturday throughout the fall to you guys about how special teams has miraculously turned the ball over yet again. They have found a new way to turn the football over on special teams like they did 5 times this year. I imagine it is going to be much better with a guy who comes from the Bill Snyder tree that did an excellent job on special teams when he was here. And as Cole pointed out, has done a great job with special teams at Toledo. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
And I'm not even sure it's like they technically done that deal essentially, but I would be shocked if that's not a deal that gets done in the next 24 to 48 hours. I just don't think they've gotten to that point, but it would be shocking, right? I think we all know. I think we discussed it here. I've shared it on Okay, so I'm sure you guys have on the Discord, Threema, Patreon, and everything. Colin Klein and Stanton Weber were college roommates.
Yeah.
So like that, and Cole, you probably have more color to provide there.
Yeah. Obviously, we know Stanton pretty well from our time. John and I did Power Cat Game Day with him for a couple of years, and on the radio, and traveled with Stanton. Great dude, really smart guy. Yeah, good for another. That is Stan's boy. Good old joke there. Yeah, I was on rocketsfly.com on the Toledo boards, letting them know that we're about to poach Stanton last night.
Is that real? Is that a real name?
No, I just made it up. Sounds like it,
That's a sick fan site name, dude.
Well,
Rocketsfly.com.
You might think I know the Toledo fan site because I'm a Maction guy, right? I'm a Mac guy.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm from Ohio.
Yeah, well, you're at Ohio, and you give us that Kent State line all the time. And
Can't write Kent State.
Yeah, I've got it. I know it. So yeah, to Stanton, the Kleins and the Webers are very, very close, and this isn't just like, oh, I'm hiring my friend. Stanton Weber is very qualified to do this, and we outlined on the show last night all the numbers. I mean, Toledo's number 25 in the country in special teams right now in the FEI. I think they're the second best non-power four school when it comes to that. So it's fascinating to see the chat. How many people ask about Curry Sexton? Curry, you are so impressive. Everybody wants to know if you are coming. No, again, we don't.
Yeah, but I would also like to point out that one person did ask if I was going to be GM and heard that I would be GM. So I just want to throw my hat in the ring too. Colin, don't give me the job. I'd be terrible at that.
No, John would be throwing around billions. Like we'll get like
he would blow the payroll on one player. Let's be honest.
Give me Paul Edgerly on the phone. I'm finding Daniel Sam's cousin, and he's coming to play quarterback.
Yeah. So anyway, Stanton Weber, fully expect him to be on the staff, and then DY, you've talked about other names. I'll let you share, and we can dive into some of them.
Yeah, the only one I would say is like also seems like a certainty would be Christian Ellsworth, and I'm talking about like the 10 assistant coach. Like he'll be an actual position coach, I believe. And Christian Ellsworth, I believe, was a walk-on quarterback in Northern Iowa that played for Colin Klein, the offensive coordinator at Northern Iowa. Then he followed him and was a GA under Klein at Kansas State when Klein started coaching at Kansas State. Then he followed Klein to Texas A&M, and I believe he will be coming with Colin Klein once again back to Kansas State as a recruit. And I think he's from Grand Island, Nebraska. Ellsworth also visited Kansas State, from what I was told, about 30 million times. So this is a guy that understands Kansas State, gets Kansas State, and also knows exactly what Colin Klein's trying to execute.
Yeah, you're right, DY. You've got the Ellsworth bio nailed down. Played quarterback at Northern Iowa from 2016, 2019. Included his freshman season under Colin Klein there. He is from Nebraska. He spent the 2023 season as an offensive analyst at Nebraska.
It was under Matt Roll, actually.
Yeah, worked with the tight ends and quarterbacks. He previously served as a grad assistant at South Carolina in 2022. So actually probably knows Stanton Weber too.
I was going to say, was he with Stanton? Yeah.
I believe Stanton was at South Carolina for the 2022 season, controlling the special teams there. He began his coaching career at K-State as an offensive grad assistant in 2020, 2021. He worked with Colin Klein here, obviously. And then he was named the tight ends coach at Texas A&M in 2025 after serving as an offensive analyst in 2024 on the Aggie staff. So this is a young guy that is elevating, and the trajectory is going up in his career. And so we'll see what his role could potentially be as far as would he be tight ends here? Would he be quarterbacks? He played quarterback, whatever. I don't have any idea what the role would be, but that seems like a guy that will probably be on the staff as well.
Don't know what position, but I think he will be a position coach. Yep.
Yeah. And then Zach Hansen, DY. I saw somebody in the chat ask about Zach Hansen. What are your thoughts on that one? Offensive line coach at USC.
The financial component there might be prohibitive. We'll see. Is prohibitive the right word? I think. But
yeah. That could be the barrier. I mean, look, he's at USC. They got Big Ten money. He's probably making a lot of money out there. Now, maybe someone get like a spreadsheet out, explain to him cost of living, how much cheaper that's going to be in Manhattan, Kansas than it is out in LA, you know?
His wife, I believe, grew up in Riley, Kansas, too.
Well, yeah, Zach Hansen clearly would know what the cost of living difference is. Obviously, John knows this too.
I know.
Yeah, no, John knows this. He was, for people that don't, offensive tackle at Kansas State from 2008 to 2011. In fact, earned first team All Big 12 in 2011. Played in 37 games in his career at Kansas State. A JUCO kid that turned into one hell of a player. And, you know, he began his coaching career at K-State. Spent 4 seasons on the staff under Bill Snyder, 2012 to 2015. Started out as an offensive quality control coach in 2012. Final 3 years as a grad assistant. Worked with the offensive line, etc. He's went all over since then. He was at Tulsa. You know, he's been around Lincoln Riley quite a bit. At one point, he went to Oklahoma for a year, and then he followed him out to USC. And just this last year was promoted from tight ends coach to offensive line coach for the 2025 season. Well, USC this year is number 16 nationally, averaging 5.4 yards per carry and 175 rushing yards per game. That is the most in the Lincoln Riley era, which is now 4 years in at USC as far as a yards per carry average, and also under a 3.5% sack rate, number 13th in the country and second best in the Big Ten. He is still a young guy, but he is one hell of a coach. And if Kansas State could land him to be the offensive line coach, that would be a tremendous hire.
Would absolutely love that. I'm not counting on it at this point, but I think that would obviously be that'd be phenomenal. Hey, I don't pay enough attention to the NFL. I know that they beat the Chiefs. Like, I guess, like Brian Schottenheimer's not getting fired this year, I assume, if we're talking about potential offensive line coaches.
Yeah, people don't know this probably. I don't think it was super available information at the time. I think it would probably surprise a little bit of people because of their backgrounds of where they come, and also kind of like their disposition and personalities. I wouldn't call these two very alike, but Colin Klein and Connor Riley became damn near best friends, if not best friends, while they were in Manhattan. In the last few staffs, the two coaches that were probably the closest out of everyone was those two, Colin Klein and Connor Riley. So all I would say is I think Colin makes Connor Riley say no. What I would say is I think he already said no.
I mean, if it looked like the because Brian Schottenheimer, like that's a type of hire that could have been like a 1-year deal had it been a disaster.
Cowboys are good right now, though.
But yeah, they're look, you don't need to tell me twice, man.
Sorry, Cole. Sorry.
I was at Thanksgiving.
No, you're all good. I don't think Brian Schottenheimer's going anywhere right now with those last couple wins they got over the Eagles and then the Chiefs. So he's doing a nice job right now.
It's also about I'm going on a tangent. They're wide receivers. They're studs.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Jake Waters has been asked about in the chat. Former K-State quarterback. He's on staff at Iowa State, which is interesting now too because Matt Campbell is being heavily pursued as we speak by Penn State.
Lot of moving parts there. I think Colin Klein respects and values Jake Waters as a coach, though. I'll probably leave it there because I don't know where it goes from there. Would Colin Klein consider Jake Waters? I think the answer would be yes. Does Jake Waters end up on the staff? We don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Goodbye to Matt Campbell. Have fun. And
someone said all of a sudden Iowa State burners are starting to celebrate, though. So did something happen in the last hour?
Guys, I told you to not get your hopes up. He's turned down so many jobs, and Penn State's coming to him for like sloppy eighths, not even sloppy seconds. Like I did not anticipate that this would actually happen.
Yeah,
and by the way, and I know I'm all over the board, and sorry, Cole, to cut you off there. As soon as the Colin Klein hire was announced, Avery posted it to his Instagram story. I'll assume that's pretty good news. I know we've also heard that we think that Avery is very much a proponent of Colin being back in maybe a certain offensive coordinator not being back. So I think the trim meter is pointing upward on Avery. I've also heard it's a done deal. Lincoln Cure will be back as well.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I mean, Colin was a big-time recruiter of Lincoln Cure when he was coming out of high school, right? And I mean, obviously, Colin then left and went to Texas A&M and Lincoln didn't go there. I think he might have taken an official visit, I think, to College Station, but there's a relationship there, and I'm eager to see what Colin Klein can do with a guy like Lincoln Cure as far as his scheme.
Yeah. And say what you will about Avery the last few years, but I think it's a big deal for assuming that he is able to keep Avery, which I think is likely. I think it's a big deal for him to come into a place as a first-time head coach and not have to really worry about it, maybe who my quarterback is going to be.
Yeah.
The Avery discussion becomes very interesting. I mean, I definitely am more open to one. This is a guy that, we talk about, hey, Avery Johnson having to have another offensive coordinator, right? Like 4 and 4 years or whatever. Well, it's not really, because he's worked with Colin Klein before.
Right.
So that helps. And I think we would all believe more in Colin's ability to get the most out of Avery than nothing against Connor Riley or Matt Wells, but the last two offensive coordinators. So there is that. And look, my beefs have been largely around like, hey, just be the guy in crunch time that'll go put your head down, be tough, go put your head down, make a clutch play. I mean, Colin Klein did more of that at K-State than about anybody out there. So you'd hope that some of that could rub off. And part of the problem is, look, to be completely honest with you, I have a bit of two minds on the Avery Johnson thing. I'm all in. If he wants to come back, I'll get behind it and support it. But I also could see like, hey, maybe just for both parties, cut bait, and it would be better for both to just go do their own thing. But the problem is, I mean, without knowing what quarterbacks are out there in the portal right now, because the portal hasn't opened, it's really difficult to know what the market will look like. But it would get pretty expensive if you want to go get somebody great, and or you would just have to scout really well to go find somebody. And it's a little scary. It's a little scary thinking about, all right, first year head coach, now you're going to have to go find a quarterback out of the portal. Maybe you pull Sam Levitt, who wasn't really all that coveted when Kenny Dillingham found him, to get his operation jump started. But it's a daunting task. I'm just presenting kind of both sides on the Avery argument there.
No, I think it's fair. Go ahead, Cole.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, like, for me, it's if Colin Klein wants Avery Johnson back, then I'm on board because I trust Colin Klein's evaluation here on who he wants at quarterback. And look at the job he's done with Marcel Reed this year in developing him, a guy that, was thought to struggle to read defenses. And that still happens, I think, at times. He makes some mistakes, but threw for nearly 3,000 yards this year, averaged nearly 9 yards per pass. Of course, they had some dynamic wide receivers, which gets to another point. Like, let's see what Kansas State can bring in at skill talent here. And I saw some questions in the chat. What about Jace Brown? Obviously Jace Brown should be a priority, and I believe he is a priority for Kansas State.
Yeah, I would say I think that the vulnerability for Jace Brown is a little bit different than it is for Avery Johnson and Lincoln Cure. I put out there, obviously, that I think they're going to stay, but you're probably going to be fighting the shadow in the room, so to speak, that other teams are going to keep trying. So you say, I think they're coming back. It's never 100% done. And with Jace Brown, I don't know that you're really finding other teams, because if Avery Johnson is sitting at Kansas State and Jace Brown wants to keep playing college football, I think he's going to keep playing it with Avery Johnson. I think the fight, so to speak, with Jace, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is probably versus the NFL.
It seems like an option. Obviously, Florida schools will probably be trying to lure Jace to come back for a final season in his home state. But I would say this, and I think you guys are on board with this as well, that if Avery Johnson is back in the fold, there is a pretty good chance that Jace Brown comes back. That's the key number one right there. Is that
what I would say is there is no way to get Jace Brown back without having Avery. But
yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's automatic. Yeah.
That's the way to say it. That's table stakes for being in the game to get Jace Brown back if you want it. You're not getting to that table to even play that game if Avery Johnson is not the quarterback.
They're roommates. We could say that too. That's a big deal about this too. Yeah.
If you do have him back, you can get, I think, in the game. Cole, I'm not going to lie. I'm not real confident in it, man. Jace has flirted with it before. He's not from around here. And look, it's not, I totally understand. He's a Florida boy, man. He's up here in Manhattan, Kansas. Like, yeah, it's a staff that believed in him. And yes, he did play for Colin Klein for one season, right? But he's not anchored here quite the same way that like Avery Johnson is. He's got an opportunity, I'm sure, if it's not going to be the NFL, he could make a ton of money playing for a school that's closer to him. I don't, I guess, 100% know what the interest would be from those schools, but I think he's definitely good enough to go. If he wanted to go play at Florida, if he wanted to go play at Florida State, Miami, yeah, I see someone there, Miami, and he definitely could, and they've got a boatload of money. I don't know, man. I will be thrilled, pleasantly surprised if Jace Brown is back, but I'm not counting on it. And that's not based on any inside information. That's just, to me, reading some of the obvious signs here.
Yeah. We can talk players too, but I did see in the chat too, strength coach, DY, any ideas there? I know we've thrown a name around. I'm trying not to step on your toes here and some of the names that we've talked about. What are you hearing on strength coach as a possibility?
Whew.
Are we not allowed to share like a candidate, like potential? Are we trying to keep that under wraps? I don't want to, but
I don't know that that's one we should put out there.
That one's a fight. I will say that they are recruiting in a tussle with a power 2 strength coach that would be pretty significant if they can win over Colin Klein and some of his support guys. They are battling in that and waging that war. They are not going down without a fight. I think it'll open eyes if they pull it. It'll definitely open eyes if they can pull it off. It will make some sense, but it would definitely open some eyes.
Yeah. All right. Keep the questions coming. I know there's a bunch that we've kind of starred here to ask about. People were asking about. We haven't talked about defensive coordinator at all, which I think is, arguably the most important hire when you're an offensive mind, the way that Colin Klein is. So let's get to that after the break. More of your questions, discussion about the DC next.
My name is Terrell Jolly. A lot of people call me TJ, founder and CEO of Integrity Capital Management. So Integrity Capital Management originally started out as a property management firm, but we slowly transitioned to what is described as an incremental development firm that's focused on situational housing. I know most people say affordable, but we believe in creating housing for people that are actually in need and built to the end user. I believe everyone needs a home because when you have home, you have hope. The reality is that when you're building a business, one thing you don't think about is like what a true banking relationship means. And, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Debbie early on in my career when I was just trying to get going. And as a small business, it's really challenging at times because people don't understand the concept or not believe the longevity because you're just getting started. But Debbie was willing to take a chance on me, be patient with me. I almost look at it like a grassroots initiative. She's seen and believe what I'm about. Anybody that's really true about their business and want to get some things done, I would definitely trust hands down Emprise, because Deb's team, along with Aaron and Jackie and all the amazing people that work behind the scenes, even from the treasury side, I would say, hey, give them an opportunity, because you won't be disappointed and you will actually be in hands that actually somebody care and that will see you from start to finish.
All right, back continuing the 3 Mile After Dark Colin Klein discussion here. Please like and subscribe. Yes, thank you, Nick, for flashing that up there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Like the video. All that stuff really helps us. And hey, if you want more, Discord's been hopping, my friends. You can sign up at patreon.com/3ma for $5 a month to get bonus content, bonus episodes, and access, most importantly, to our Discord server, where we'll give you little nuggets. You would have known that all of this was coming instead of being blindsided by it. You would have known beforehand if you were members of the Discord at patreon.com/3ma. Defensive coordinator. I see that David asked about Joe Klanderman, possibility of him being retained. Your thoughts, DY, on where things might go here at defensive coordinator, which is a very important hire. And I don't know, this is one where maybe the more I've thought about it, the more I could lean toward, all right, going with an experienced defensive coordinator instead of younger up and coming. I can see the logic. I can see the value in that, even though my natural inclination would always be to say, get me young, hungry, up and coming guy with a ton of upside.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I think Joe Klanderman is one of the few coaches on the, I guess you say, outgoing Kansas State staff that has a chance to be retained. I think I've shared that before. I understand that, and it's difficult to quantify Joe Klinnerman as a defensive coordinator because he is one of those rare coaches that when you're in the fight and during the game, it feels a lot worse than when it ultimately ends up becoming when it gets to the final whistle and you look at the stats and you're like, oh, the defense played pretty well, right? It's one of those. So he's hard to quantify. I would say it always feels kind of bad in the fight. And then you look up and I think every year from 2021 to 2024, Kansas State had a top 5 defense in the Big 12 when it came to points per drive. And it didn't always feel that way. I understand that. But I also think that he is viewed as a incredibly hard worker, very smart guy, does things the right way, really good recruiter, relates to guys well. So a lot of his calling cards is what will appeal to Colin Klein, and why I think he's one of the few coaches on this outgoing staff that Colin Klein kind of sees as, someone that might be worth retaining. At the same time, I do think Colin Klein has his eye on a few other guys that are probably maybe harder to land, but might be more well received. Is that fair? I'm trying. One of those being Jordan Peterson, which is on the staff at Texas A&M. I'll just say it, co-defense coordinator, but I think he is not really their play caller. I think he's third in the pecking order of that particular staff. I think he and Colin have talked about working together in the future when Colin becomes a head coach, not specifically at one place. Does that become Kansas State? I don't think we know that yet. I don't know if I said all that right.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's fair. I think, the Jordan Peterson thing, he's a guy, so he spent some time at Kansas. I think he's really well regarded by KU fans for the work that he did there. I think, a little more of the look when you're a defensive coordinator or co-defensive coordinator at Texas A&M and Mike Elko is the head coach, I'm not sure how much you're doing in terms of responsibility. I'm sure there's a motivation to get away from that and run your defense with a guy who's not a defensive minded head coach. So that's the selling point, but it's also the risk there. First time head coach, first time defensive coordinator, when that's, probably the most important hire that you need to lock down on this staff. I do understand some of the risk with that, but I know he's really highly thought of. If Mike Elko thinks enough of him to have him in that high of a spot, I'm tempted to, lean toward wanting and preferring that, but we'll see. Texas A&M could also throw a giant bag at him to try and get him to stick around. I don't know. We'll see. Mike Elko just had that quote a couple days ago. Basically, I want guys leaving for head coaching jobs. I don't want them leaving for other assistant coach. Right. So maybe there would be a fight there. Joe Klinnerman, I'm with you. I think he's done a solid job. That's just kind of, you put it really well, where it's like there are a lot of performances that feel worse in the moment. And then you look up and you're like, hey, that was actually pretty solid. That's what I keep coming back to. I think he's been solid. So I think you could do a lot worse than Joe Klinnerman there, but we'll see. I'm interested to see where that one is going to go.
Yeah, when Colin was named head coach, or we learned of it, the thought process was spend a little lighter at offensive coordinator, spend big at defensive coordinator, because we know Colin can help with the offense, and we don't know what his role, if he'll call plays or how that will work, but obviously that'll come out eventually at some point. But on the defensive coordinator side, the interesting thing is Jordan Peterson is obviously on Mike Elko's staff as a defensive-minded guy. That's what he's known for, and he's been there for a couple of years now. He's also known as a really, really dynamic recruiter. And so that is enticing. At the same time to what you just outlined, first of all, he's a Texas A&M alum, so it will probably be a little harder to pull him away. He's from Texas A&M. That's where he went to school, went back there, and So there's going to be some challenges there, and A&M will have the resources to retain him if it comes down to money, and they really want to keep Jordan Peterson. It's a dynamic recruiter, but I think the risk that you have there is, again, first-time defensive coordinator truly calling the plays and orchestrating the defense. My dream scenario would be Jordan Peterson and Joe Klanderman as co-defensive coordinators, and I don't know if that world exists. I don't know if that's something that both guys would agree to, because he's basically co-defensive coordinator at A&M right now and not getting to necessarily call the shots. And I would assume that the pitch to make him come to Kansas State would be, hey, you're running the defense. And so in that point, like, would Joe Klanderman be willing to have co-D coordinator attached to his name, but not have a say really necessarily in like the game plan, et cetera?
And it's also how you separate all the positional responsibilities, because they're both defensive back coaches as well.
Yeah, they're both secondary guys, and so you'd have to figure that out as part of it too. Now, what I will say about Joe Klanderman, guys, is you're right. Like, I was just looking on my phone again and refreshing the numbers. If you look at the FEI rankings, and that's not the end-all, be-all. We talked about points per drive to DY, and there's a bunch of other meaningful numbers out there. But if you go back to just 2021 to date through this last season, Joe Klanderman's defenses over 5 seasons have ranked in the top 30 in the FEI nationally every single season. And 3 of them have ranked in the top 25. Now, this year, they were 28th in the country in the FEI. The thing that leaves you, I think, that leaves a sour taste in your mouth when you watch Joe Klanderman or Chris Klieman defenses have just been the inexplicable big plays that they've given up. Like, those sting. Like, you don't have anybody near a guy and you give up a 70-yard play, or, you just don't look like you know what you're doing. And so there's been situations like that too many times. And that's really been the biggest hamper in the downfall of the defense. The other question you have about Joe Klanderman, guys, look, you love that he's an experienced defensive coordinator, so you can understand why that would be tempting to have him on the staff. At the same time, Chris Klieman is a defensive guy. And so you wonder, remember the comment that Chris Klieman said, DY, that you outlined on the show earlier this year when he said, I'm going to get with Joe Klanderman and we're going to fix this. Like, so you have to also wonder, like, how much of a say in the defense did Chris Klieman have, and the impact that he had versus Joe Klanderman on his own without Chris Klieman. But at the same time, you could also flip that and say Joe Klanderman's learned from a really good defensive guy in Chris Klieman over the last several years, and he's taken those lessons and he's going to carry him through. So I guess the long answer is, ideally, I would love to have Jordan Peterson for his recruiting ability and the potential there, because he's a younger guy. And I'd love to have Joe Klanderman because of his experience at Kansas State. But I'd love them to coexist together. And I don't know if that.
I don't think that world exists. I would also say, on that discussion point you bring up about how much was Kleiman doing on the defense versus Klanderman, if there's a guy who would know, Colin Klein was there, he saw what was going on, I would trust his judgment to know who was doing what there and whether or not he would trust him as his defensive coordinator. Yeah, I don't think there's any world, man. If you're talking about pulling an alum to come for then just like a purely lateral move, I don't see any, and convincing a guy who's been the sole Power 4 coordinator here to then be a co-defensive coordinator with someone who's never been a full-time coordinator before. I just, I get it. That'd be awesome, but I don't think that one's probably going to happen.
I tend to think that the ones that have the best chance of both on their side and obviously the new side where Colin Klein is now making the decisions. You're talking about Brian LePack and Buddy Wyatt, I think.
Also potential holdovers from the staff. Yes.
Colin's going to be coaching A&M during the playoff game.
Yeah, Colin will be. Yeah, he'll flying back Saturday night, I believe, to College Station to then be with Texas A&M through the remainder of the playoffs. Now, on that note, there was a question from Carson earlier who asked, how behind will K-State be if Texas A&M makes it pretty far into the college football playoff? Seems like we could fall behind in portal recruiting and roster retention.
What I would say is you should root for your future head coach. At the same time, him losing early is best case scenario.
Him losing early 58-51, where the offense scores every possession, is the best case scenario. And Mike Elko's defense is trash, except then we don't want Jordan Peterson. Shh. So,
but he is your future head coach, so still root for Texas A&M to win. But if they lose, it's okay.
What do you guys think of the? Is there an impact on recruiting in a PR sense of having Colin Klein coaching in the playoff when millions of people are watching those games and they show?
It doesn't hurt. I think I often think those things are a little bit overblown personally, because you'd be surprised at how few of these kids that you're recruiting are actually watching that shit.
Yeah.
Well, especially these days now, Cole, when so much of it is like money. I don't know how much of that stuff matters. And I was even thinking that in the Jordan Peterson discussion, like, hey, I'm all for, listen, I'm hardwired in, get me the recruiter, get me the recruiter, get me the recruiter. But does it matter as much anymore?
Yeah.
Does that skill set matter as much anymore?
Money matters a lot more probably, but I mean, that can be a tipping point, at least scheme and everything to the appeal of guys. And I think one thing that I'd like to see, first of all, I guess I should also just say this about Colin Klein's offense, like circling back, moving off from the defensive question, is I think there's a perception that like Colin Klein's just going to line up and run the quarterback 150 times, right? And it's going to be smash mouth. And we saw that with Colin Klein as the player. And yes, he did call some of that in games at Kansas State. But when he has the skill and the receivers, look what he's got at Texas A&M this year. He's got Mario Craver, who's a 5'9" sophomore receiver, Ashton Bethel Roman, who's a 4-star receiver, true freshman that's dynamic for them. And he's got KC Concepcion, the transfer from NC State that K-State chased hard in the portal this last offseason. Well, those top two guys I mentioned, Concepcion and Craver, have over 800 yards each on the season receiving. And then Bethel Roman's averaging 23 yards a catch, over 420 yards as a true freshman for them. They've thrown for almost 3,000 yards. Marcel Reed, half of his runs are on scrambles. Like, they're not lining up. I think he only has, Parker pulled this on Pro Football Focus, I think he only has 46 designed QB runs. And Marcel Reed is a dual threat quarterback who's run for almost 500 yards this year. And so a lot of his runs are on scramble opportunities. So I don't think like it's going to be lining up Avery Johnson if Avery Johnson's back and running him, 200 times on quarterback design runs. I'm hopeful it'll be more like what we see from Marcel Reed, where Avery will take off and run more like he's done this year, that we've been wanting Avery to do more of, that he started to do those last few games. And so, I just wanted to point that out as far as Colin Klein's offense, which, again, by the way, another name, Ricky Ronnie, a guy that it probably unlikely, right, guys? I mean, the thing about Ricky Ronnie, he's the Old Dominion head coach. He's a former offensive coordinator at Penn State under James Franklin. He followed James Franklin to Vanderbilt from Kansas State. Ricky was on the staff actually when my wife, Vanessa, worked in the Veneer Football Complex for a few years when Ron Prince was here. And then to tell you what the volume or how Ricky Ronnie is perceived is Bill Snyder kept him on the staff from Ron Prince, one of just a couple of guys that he retained for 2009 and 2010 seasons. Then Ronnie eventually went to Vanderbilt with James Franklin, who he knew from when he was at Kansas State, followed him to Penn State. He's been at Old Dominion for several years now. You see some of these power group of 5 coaches starting to leave as head coaches and take coordinator jobs because they're sick of just the college landscape and the challengings that they face in getting poached their rosters. And that would probably be more likely. We saw it with Matthew Driscoll in basketball in North Florida coming to Kansas State. Be more likely, but Old Dominion just had by far and away their best season in going 9-3. And the most wins they'd had before that under Ronnie was 6. So it's probably going to be hard to pull a guy like Ricky Ronnie, but he's a guy close to Colin Klein. They're both from Colorado. They were together at Kansas State for a period of time. So that's a guy to keep in mind as an offensive guy as well.
Well, that conversation then I think becomes interesting. Like if it's Ricky Ronnie, is he coming here to not call plays? Like, so then if you hire Ricky Ronnie, is he calling plays all of a sudden? And then Colin's just the CEO head coach?
I think you're muted, DY.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what's happening there?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why Ricky Ronnie is not coming.
Yeah, I don't. It seems probably unlikely.
It's already done. He's not coming. Yeah.
Oh, you already said. All right. Well, I wish you would have just cut me off mid-sentence before I rattled off all that stuff on Ricky Ronnie. Okay. So, what do you think of offensive coordinator, DY?
No idea.
No idea. Okay.
That one feels like it could be a lot more wide open. Colin Klein, I know people have pointed out like calling plays from the sideline, and like Harambe, like, look, man, I know. I was making the point that Ricky Ronnie's not coming here to not call plays. So if that were ever going to play out, you're not taking a head coach who's just going to then be a offensive coordinator not calling plays at the Power 4 level. That's not upgrading his career. But Colin, this is so weird. You literally are saying different words, but the same. Colin plays from the sideline as opposed to being up in the booth. Adjustment period there expected.
Could be. I think that's every head coach that calls plays, right? So maybe do we bring on Steve Sarkisian on the show and ask him what that's like? Because that's the one guy I can think that went through that. He doesn't call plays anymore. Ryan Day went through that. There's more than those two. I think there's like 10 or 15. I went through the guys that are now head coaches that are calling plays from the sideline. Billy Napier used to do it at Florida. Josh Heupel used to do it at Tennessee. I don't think he calls plays anymore though. So I think every head coach Andy Reid now at the Chiefs, right? I'm sure at one point he called plays from a booth. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly common thing. I think it's something that a lot of guys have gone through. So just pointing out, people have certainly pointed out that will be something that'll have to be
Lincoln Riley, right? Yeah,
an adjustment there. I guess just to close this off, because there's going to be plenty of time to talk Colin Klein stuff. We can do a whole game reacting to the press conference, but yeah, a lot of people wanting to know about the bowl game. I mean, I think it's safe to say the players did not want to do it, but there may be other forces in play that will make that happen. I mean, I don't know. We also saw a coach posting on social media today about being fired. So I don't know. It really makes you wonder what state everybody's going to be in. How would you cobble together a staff to do it? There's just that's tough. Again, we're kind of in unprecedented times here. This is a new sort of situation. I don't know how exactly you would do it and what that would even begin to look like as far as who's playing in it, who's coaching in it.
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to it. I think Van Malone basically tweeted he was fired. So I don't know how, invested of a coaching staff you end up having, even if you decide to go. These guys have to work on their next jobs. They're going to be job hunting. They're not going to be really game planning. So if you go to a bowl game and all of a sudden it looks like these guys haven't really prepared or game planned, it's probably because they haven't. So you need to take that into account. Do you want to go send this team out there and look like they haven't prepared? Because there's a good chance they will not look prepared. So that's part of it. And we're in the beginning stages of this, I call it mess, whatever you want to call it. How many guys enter the portal today? 6 or 7? There's more coming probably. You could be like that LSU team that skeleton crew that Kansas State beat in 2021. Do you really want to be that? I don't know if there's any benefit to being the skeleton crew that LSU sent to Houston to get their ass kicked by Kansas State in the Texas Bowl. And to be honest, I think that's the best case scenario.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any benefit for K-State. I think the question is there a benefit for the Big 12 to not have a team ducking a bowl partner?
The Big 12 weighing in, I think, is the last thing in between Kansas State not going to a bowl. You probably said it, but I think Kansas State, in their mind, if it's up to them, they already decided they're not going. Yeah.
You're not gonna have enough bodies in all likelihood with all the things you guys outlined, and coaches not necessarily invested. Look, I'd love to send Chris Kleiman out with a full roster and have that send off in a bowl game and play well for him, but it just doesn't seem into the cards. I mean, if a large number of them aren't interested in practicing and getting ready over the next 3 weeks for a bowl and they just want to move on, then you're going to look awful when you go out there and take the field in a bowl game. And so I'd be stunned if they ended up accepting a berth. Unless, Colin Klein wanted to just go ahead and take the reins with the staff that he brings in and just coach the bowl game,
But he's got the playoff to worry about. Like, guys, there's too many. Can we just, like, I see Aaron there, and I know that there are some people. I don't know. Someone told me this has turned into like a hot topic on the boards or something. I don't know. I'm astonished that people care this much about the bowl game and that people would be that worked up. But I see Aaron down there, when these players are 45, well, they wish they had played the bowl game. What about Dr. Trace, the band, etc.? Like, guys, it's just, I get where you're coming from, but we just outlined like the realities of this situation. Like, one coach is already on Twitter, like, hey, I got to find a job. If you know something, hit me up. I just got fired. Like, that's what happened to all these guys. They're concerned about their next job. The players are concerned about what decision they're going to make that's best for their future. And if you had all that money potentially on the line, it would be really hard to argue that the better move is to try and cobble something together when all your coaches are already just searching for jobs and no one's going to be focused. And like, you saw Chris Klein come into that press conference and then just waltz right out, like not sticking around. That does not look like a guy that's like into preparing, like grinding out prep for a bowl game right now. And then, if you were going to try and do it with Colin or whatever, they got to spend their energy in the portal, getting the GM ready and organized, hiring a staff. There are far more important things at play and too many moving parts. And he's going to be coaching Texas A&M in the playoff even for a while. Guys, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. One
of the questions is like, when these players are 45, will they wish they played the bowl game? No, because I'll be honest, if they go ahead with this bowl game, if you want to know a reality check here, there's a chance you lose to Kennesaw State by like 20.
It would be a bad look for the program. Look, if your point is, would they like another opportunity in 45 years to have gone out as a full team, like say the team that played against Colorado with that staff and everybody invested and go out and play one more game? Sure. I think that's a valid point. I think what we're trying to say is that's not the question that you're asking at this point. The question you're asking at this point is, do you want to go out there with a roster of like 40 guys that would get, trucked by Navy or Kennesaw State or something like that, and just distract you from doing the things that are in the best interest of the players' future and the program's future right now? So that's what I would say about that. Any final thoughts? Gentlemen?
Colin Klein's arrival jet tomorrow morning for those that want to greet him. And K-State has put this out as well. And a little bit different than in past introductory. I've been there for I think 3 of them, of when the plane arrives with the new head coach. It's a morning one, 10:40 a.m.
All right. Well, John, we hopping in a car? We getting to Manhattan for the flight arrival?
I got to work, Cole.
So do I. Yeah.
I will definitely have to be there. I need to text Mason to make sure he's going to be there.
I did show up to I do remember being at the Chris Kleiman.
I was. The first person to ever ask a question in the media setting to Chris Kleiman was Matt Hall.
That's right. I remember being there with Matt Hall. Like, we staked that thing out for a while.
Were you in that SU?
Yeah.
Actually, we parked at the wrong place and realized it right the last second.
Yes.
We whipped that car around. Yeah, that was.
Yes, you were right. That all just came flooding back to me. We were in the wrong spot, like waiting forever in a car, and then all of a sudden we were like, "Oh wait, maybe it's actually over here," and figured it out last minute.
Flando was with us as well. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Good times. Yeah, I do remember that. All right. Well, yeah. Hey, everybody, go hang out with Chris or Colin Klein tomorrow. Go. See him come in. Go to the press conference. Coffee with Klein. Yeah.
What was it? Coffee with Chris?
I know you did. I know you almost said coffee with Chris. Rest in peace to Coffee with Chris. Oh man. Okay. Well, Cole, do you have any final words of wisdom to the fans or to Colin or anybody here?
It's going to be a fun long run, I think, with Colin Klein leading the program. So just eager again, reemphasize that. Yeah, Coffee with Colin. That's a 3-mile segment right there. DY, ask him if he's game to do that with us here soon. Not like he has more important things for us, right? Yeah, no, it's just an exciting time, and I'm excited to see all the Kansas State fans unified and everybody build toward the future here and contributing to Kansas State athletics, and see what the donors do as well. And Kansas State builds a hell of a roster. One thing we didn't talk about, because we really just don't frankly know, is and no, by the way, I'm not hammered. I literally had a half shot of a drink, Denver Mo. So that's all I've had tonight. The one thing I would say about Colin Klein, that comment made me lose my train of thought. So now, look what you did to me, Denver Mo. Now it does look like I completely lost my train of thought on where I was going to go with that. I had something really powerful to say, guys, and
something that we hadn't talked about because we don't.
Yeah, I remember now. Okay, so the one thing we haven't talked about is when we talk about all these assistants is his salary assistant pool and what the money looks like there. And well, I think we feel pretty confident it's more than what Chris Kleiman had. We just don't know what it actually looks like from a dollar figure. I don't know if that's in his contract, if we went and got his contract, if those numbers are in there, but that's going to play a part too. Is just how much resources does he have to go out and make the hires that he wants to make. And, going to Texas A&M, they have a large staff. And so he saw firsthand, how that works. So he's going to probably want a little bit of a larger staff at Kansas State, from quality control to analysts, et cetera. And so that'll be something that we'll probably uncover more information on as we proceed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Stay tuned. You know where to find us. Like and subscribe, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. 3 Ma After Dark, a rarity, but we got the official news, and so we made it happen. Excited for what's to come. Excited to check out the press conference tomorrow, and then I'm sure we'll have a video before too long reacting to all that.
Coach Snyder sounds like he'll be in the building for the introductory press conference. Yep.
Yes,
that's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to was it the Mercury who did that story with some quotes that I read today from Bill Snyder. It was good. I enjoyed the quotes.
Mercury, Toby, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Ham. He I think he's still a student. He's really good though. He was the one that Pete Hughes barked at that one time.
I just enjoyed the quotes. I thought they were good quotes. To
remember get I think Cole knows the baseball player. He barked at because he just used his quotes and whatever. He's really good at his job though. Yeah. I like Toby. He's got a bright future.
Yeah. I need to read it. I'll check it out, but that'll be awesome.
I will say it make Coach Snyder seem like he knew far more about the current landscape of college football than I ever thought he might know.
It was interesting perspective. Yeah.
He knew about players getting paid and above the counter NIL and everything. I was like, okay.
Well, players have been getting paid for like 4 years now. So, I mean, yeah.
And if you're Coach Snyder, he'd probably say players have been played for 40 years now. So, yeah.
SEC. Yeah. All right. Thanks to Holiday Distillery. Thank you to Alenko. Thank you to Nick Springer for working late with us tonight to make this happen. Thank you to all of you for being here. We appreciate it very much. Take care. We will talk to you very soon here on 3 Ma.